Hey kiddos, we are reading Among the Impostors, chapter 7 today. And in the last chapter, we learned that Luke still hasn't read the note from Mr. Talbot, and that Luke is trying to figure out people's names. He's trying to recognize them. So let's say he studies a kid's face, and he's like, okay, his name's Spencer. And so all day long he's thinking this kid's name is Spencer, but then throughout the day, kids are calling him different names. So maybe somebody will call that kid Spencer Ted, or JB, or whatever it is. And so Luke's confused because the names are changing and he can't keep up with it. Remember, Luke was in hiding all of his life, so he's not used to recognizing people's features and their face and different aspects about them, whether their eyes are blue or the shape of their nose. So he's starting to learn what people look like and to differentiate their features so he can figure them out. But in all of that, the names keep changing, so that's odd. Keep that in mind. Chapter 7. Luke saw the door one morning on the way to class. He barely slept the night before, so he was groggy and stupid. He was shuffling along looking for a familiar classroom to duck into before the hall monitor yelled at him. Between classrooms, he stared down at his feet, too miserable to lift his head. But just as he turned a corner, someone bumped into him. Luke looked up in time to see the other boy barrel past him without an apology. Then as Luke turned his head forward again, he saw it. The door was on the outside wall. Luke couldn't have said if he passed it 100 times before or never. It was solid wood with a brass knob, just like dozens of other doors in the school. It was barely even ajar. But beyond it, Luke could see grass and trees and sky outdoors. He didn't think. He didn't even pause to make sure a hall monitor wasn't watching him. In a flash, Luke was out the door. Outside, Luke stood still, his back to the wall of the school. He was breathing hard. Read the note and get back inside. Some tiny, rational part of his brain urged him before someone sees you. But he couldn't move. It was May. The lawn ahead of him was a rich green carpet. Red buds were blooming in lilacs. He thought he even smelled honeysuckle. His mind played a trick on him, and suddenly he was almost a whole year back in time, standing outside for what he had thought might be the last time in his entire life. The government workers were just starting to cut down the woods behind his family's house, and his mother was fearfully ordering him, "Luke, inside now!" And when the woods were gone, Jen's house replaced it. His mind skipped ahead, and he remembered his first trip to Jen's house. He stepped outside and felt paralyzed, just like now, and he marveled at the feel of fresh air on his face, just like now. And he had been in danger, just like now. Luke looked back at the school hopelessly. Anyone could easily look out a window and see him and report him. Maybe they just give him more of those meaningless demerits. Or maybe this would make him realize that he really wasn't Lee Grant and that his papers were forged. By the laws of the land, he deserved to die. Strangely, Luke could see no windows, but the door was opening. Luke took off running. He raced as blindly as he had that first day, trying to keep up with Raleigh Sturgeon. Luke was crashing through the undergrowth of a small woods before his mind fully registered that there was a woods. Brambles tore his arms and legs and chest, and he kept running. He whipped willow branches out of his way. He was so frenzied. He felt like he could run forever. Then he tripped over a log and fell. Silence. Only now that he stopped did Luke realize how much noise he'd been making. So stupid. Luke lay face down in ferns and moss and waited for someone to grab him and yell and punish him. Nothing happened. Over the pounding of his pulse, Luke could hear nothing but birdsong. After what seemed like a very long time, he cautiously raised his head. Trees formed a canopy over his head. A flash of movement caught Luke's eye. It was only a squirrel jumping from branch to branch. Branches swayed, but only because of the wind. Slowly, Luke inched back the way he had come. Finally, he crouched, hidden by the underbrush, and spied on the school. Nobody was in sight. Luke peered at the door. It moved out again, and he stiffened. terrified. But then it moved in and out, in and out. So slow. It was like the school was breathing through the door. Suddenly, Luke understood. Nobody had pushed the door open. It was the wind, or maybe the change in the air pressure as the boys walked past. Luke stuck his head out a little further. He could see one whole side of the school building this way, and he realized for the first time there were no windows in any part of the wall. It was solid brick, up and down. How could that be? Luke thought about all the rooms he'd been in since coming to Hendrix, and it was true. He couldn't remember a single window in any of them. Even the room he shared with Jackaboy and his minions were windowless. Why hadn't he ever noticed before? And that's very odd. We usually have windows for light, for air, so we can have air or whatever, but also windows are safety things that we use. It's like another exit. And so there's no windows, not a single window at Hendrick School for Boys. What an odd thing to have or not to have. And why would someone build so many windowless rooms? Suddenly, Luke didn't care. There were no windows. Nobody was coming out the door. He was safe. I can read the note now, he said aloud and chuckled. It was strangely thrilling to hear his own voice, not timid, not stammering, Luke's voice, not the pretend Lee's. I'm going to read it right over there, he said, speaking just for the pleasure of it. Finally. He strolled deeper into the woods and sat down on the very log he tripped over before. Slowly, ceremoniously, he slipped the note from Jen's dad out of his pocket. Now he would know everything he needed to do. He unfolded the note, which had grown worn from all the times he palmed it in his hand, secretly transferring it from the pocket of one pair of pants to the other. Then he started trying to make sense of Mr. Talbot's scrawl, his handwriting. The note only held 2 words. 2 words on the note. Can you guess what it said? It said blend in. Blend in. That's it. This note he's been trying to read forever. Blend in. That would make me crazy. He thought it had everything he needed, all the answers to everything going on at Hendrick School for Boys. And it said 2 words, blend in.